Here we are for the second part of 8.5. This would be Wednesday, eLearning 4.1 for 8.5b, which is again adding and subtracting rational expressions. We'll quickly go over this first one. What's the least common multiple of the following terms? I would need them in factored form, so if I took apart 12 into prime factors, that would be 2 squared times 3. Okay, because of 4 times 3, 4 is 2 times 2, or 2 squared. And then x squared y cubed x minus 2 as a binomial. Okay, those would be my terms. And then 18 would be 3 squared 2. And then we have x squared y squared and x plus 2. Now again, we said common times non-common for our least common multiple. So if I took what's in common, there is a factor of 2 that's common, and then there's a factor of 2 left over in the first one because there's 2 2's here and only one term, highlight here, one term there and 2 there, so we would have another 2 that's not common. Okay, now if we look at if we looked at the 3's, there's a 3 here, and there's 2 3's here. So that would leave us with a 3 in common and a 3 that's not in common. Okay, if we looked at then the x's and the y's, okay, so x's, there's 2 x's here and there's 2 there, so we have 2 x's in common. And no extras. All right, and if we then looked at the y's, we have 3 y's here and 2 y's there. So we would have 2 y's in common and 1 y not in common. If we then went to the binomials, x minus 1 and x plus 1 looks like they're both in the not commons. So we'll go x minus 2 and x plus 2. Okay, those are the not commons. So if we take these and multiply them together, make this slightly bigger, multiply these together, then I would have, if I take the 2 and the 2, that's 4, and the 3 and the 3, that's 9, so 4 times 9 would leave me with 36. There's the number. Okay, and then x squared, no x squareds over here, no x's, so just 2 x's. Y squared and y would be y cubed. And then x plus 2, x minus 2. And there is my there's my LCM, or my least common multiple, for these two terms. All right? Factor the following. So we go to eyeglasses, split the x's, factors of 7, sum of negative 6. So we would have minus 7, minus 1. When you got a positive here, either both terms are negative or positive, you look to the middle term, and the middle term says that it is negative. Therefore, both of these terms had to be negative. Okay? Okay, factor the following. Now on this one, I'm going to take a 2x and an x. Since 2 is prime, we can do that. And then factors of 2, that when I multiply the outsides and the insides, those two products will give me a total of 4x. All right, so if I took the 2, I would have to go with a 1 over here and a 2 there. They're both positives. And this would give me a product of 2x, and the insides would, or the outsides and the insides would give me a product of 2x, and when you add those together, you get 4x, and there it is. So my factored form would be 2x plus 2 times x plus 1. And there's my factored form. All right, now just some factoring and getting some skills there. What's the sum of x plus 1 over x minus 1 and negative 2 over x squared minus x. I'd have to first factor the x squared minus x to find out what my least common denominator would have to be in order to add these up. So I would take out an x and get x minus 1, and I have an x minus 1 over here. So my LCD would be x as a not common factor and x minus 1 as the common factor. Okay, so that's the denominator that I want to get for both of these terms. I already have it here. All right, so we're good there. What I want then is to get it over here. So in order to get it over there, I'm going to have to multiply by an x over x, which will take that x times x minus 1, and again I have x times x minus 1 here as well. So this is going to give me in the numerator upstairs here x times x plus 1, okay, over x times x minus 1, plus, and then this is just going to be a negative 2 over x times x minus 1. It's already in the right form. So I'll distribute this x, which would give me x squared plus x, plus the negative 2, which would be minus 2, and that's all together over, hey, these guys are the same, so we're putting them together as over the same denominator, x minus 1. Now I'm going to have to factor this trinomial here. So we would take the eyeglasses, putting it over x times x minus 1. Oh, and I haven't done the restrictions yet, so we'll split the x's on top, and then factors of negative 2 that would give me a sum of positive 1. So that would be plus 2 minus 1. And my restrictions, I'm going to come over here and put them. Restrictions would be that x cannot equal 0, because that would drive this guy to be a 0, and then the denominator would have to be a 0. So that can't work. And then x can also not equal 1, because if I put a 1 in here, that would make this 0, and 0 times anything, 1, would give me 0. So there's my restrictions. Okay, now I'm over here on, at this point, and I'm trying to simplify. My x minus 1s can now be canceled out, and it leaves me with an x plus 2 over x, and there is my simplified form. Simplified form and the restrictions. We'll look at a couple of more here. X squared minus 2x is the one denominator, 2x minus 4 is the other denominator. As I go to factor out, I have an x in common on this side and x minus 2. Okay, and over here, if I factor out a 2, I've got an x minus 2 times 2, and that takes care of the two denominators. Now to find my least common denominator, I have x minus 2 in common, and I have an x and a 2, so we'll make it 2x not in common, and that gives me a least common denominator of 2x times x minus 2. Well, I have an x times x minus 2. Let me change my color here, and I'm going to have to multiply the first term by 2. Well, that didn't work so good. So let's go 2 over 2. And then on the second term, I've got 2 times x minus 2, but I'm missing the x. So I'm going to have to multiply this side by x over x, which is going to give me a 2 times x plus 2 in the first term, minus, and then x times x plus 2 in the second term. And we're going to put it all over the 2x times x minus 2. Distribute. That'll give me 2x plus 4 minus, and then I'm going to take the minus x and distribute that, and that would give me minus x squared, and then minus x times 2 would give me negative 2x. Well, notice my negative 2x and my positive 2x will cancel. And that's going to give me a 2x times x minus 2. All right, now I've got a 4 minus x squared left over, which is the difference of two perfect squares, over 2x times x minus 2. The difference of two perfect squares would be 2 plus x and 2 minus x over 2x times x minus 2. Now, if you think back to what we did in a couple sections ago, we talked about that product of a negative 1, or property of negative 1, and notice these two terms right here and here, 2 minus x and x minus 2. They are exact opposites. If I factored out a negative 1, I would get negative 2 plus x, or x minus 2. And now, all of a sudden, presto, I have x minus 2 and x minus 2. And those guys will cancel out. All right? Now, the restrictions I didn't do yet, so let's quick get the restrictions, and then we'll go ahead and start canceling. The restrictions, x cannot equal what? Well, right here, I get a 0, because 2 times 0 is 0, and 0 times x minus 2 would be 0. All right? And from this one, it can't be a 2. So x cannot equal 0 or 2, because 2 minus 2 is 0, and 0 times anything would be 0. So those are my restrictions. Now I'm going to cancel out the x minus 2 and the x minus 2. Don't forget this negative 1. And the negative 1 times, and I've got 2 plus x, I could leave it that way, or I could write it as x plus 2 on the top over 2x. And that is my simplified form, and I'm done with it. There's my simplified form, here's my restrictions, and we are done. I have one more, and then we're going to quit after this one. I got x minus 2 in the denominator, and this trinomial in the denominator over here. The factored form of this one would be to split the x's. Factors of 2 would be negative 2 and negative 1. Over here, I've just got x minus 2. I need to multiply by x minus 1 over x minus 1, another weird 1, or weird form of 1, and that would give me an x minus 1 times x plus 3 on the top. For the first term, minus, and then I'm just going to have 6x minus 7. Okay, all over, and by golly, it's x minus 1, x minus 2. They're the same denominator. I'm going to FOIL this side and then distribute this negative sign. So this would give me an x squared for the firsts, and then plus 3x minus x, so plus 2x for the outsides and insides together. And then for the last, it'll be minus 3. Then when I distribute the negative 1, it would be minus 6x and plus 7. Notice that sign changed because of the negative sign I multiplied it by, over x minus 1, x minus 2. Okay, I'm going to put my x terms together, and I'm going to put my numbers together, and this will give me x squared. I will have minus 4x, and then plus 4, over x minus 2, x minus 1. And I reverse the order there. We're going to go this direction, but notice that my restrictions here, x cannot equal, what would they be? That's right, they can't be 2 or 1. There'd be my restrictions. And then on the top, I'm going to get x minus 2, x minus 2, when I put that into the eyeglasses, factored form, over x minus 2, x minus 1. Cancel out one of the x minus 2's, and I'm left with x minus 2 over x minus 1 with these restrictions. I hope you're getting it. I hope you're feeling good about it. I got a different one for you on Friday. Have a great day. See you. Bye.